Welcome to Two Hypnotherapists Talking with me, Denise Billen-Mejia, in Delaware, USA.
And me, Martin Furber, in Preston, UK.
This weekly podcast is for anyone and everyone who'd like to know more about the fascinating subject of hypnosis and the benefits it offers.
I'm a clinical hypnotherapist and psychotherapist.
I'm a retired medical doctor turned consulting hypnotist.
We are Two Hypnotherapists Talking.
So let's get on with the episode. So let's get on with the show.
Yeah, I know. Season 3, welcome back.
Do you enjoy a little break?
Yes, it's been eventful. No need to go there, but I've had a good break, and I'm feeling ready to go on season 3.
Oh, it's a break from the podcast. You didn't take a break from work.
No, far from it.
But change is as good as a rest, as they say.
So they say. But yeah, no, I've had a good rest from the podcast. And I'm raring to go, but yeah, I've been very, very busy with work, as have you, I've no doubt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of things are falling into place. You know, it's just like hypnosis. It's not a magic wand. It's like, I shall have a business. Poof, there's a business. It doesn't work that way. There's so much stuff that goes on behind the scenes that you don't realize.
Yeah, I know.
So of hypnosis, not that we're doing things behind the scenes, but you know, we make suggestions to the subconscious, and then it's got work to do.
Yeah, well, we make suggestions to our subconscious all the time, don't we?
Yeah.
So I know what we're going to talk about today.
I don't know. I think actually rest and recuperation and the importance of taking breaks from things.
Yeah, well, I keep saying this thing all along, right the way through the last 2 series. Whenever we've hit on something, we start talking about or make references back to old sayings and expressions. Like I remember when we were talking about sleeping, you said an hour before midnight's worth 2 afterwards, or is it the other way around? I can't remember.
You said it correctly the first time.
Yeah, thank you. And then there's the expression, a change is as good as a rest. So it's like, what's the reasons?
Because there's ancient wisdom.
Yeah.
Without getting all woo-woo on us.
No, there's no need to go woo-woo. We don't do woo-woo.
So many of the problems that we have in this modern world are that we are ignoring the wisdom of the thing. You know, the sun has gone to bed. You should too. It's quite... and some things we still do naturally, but there's so much competition. We're so connected. You know, I had a meeting yesterday at 7 a.m., which is not a natural time for me to be up. I get up if I need to, certainly up before 7, but I don't want to engage with my brain necessarily at 7 a.m. I can do it if I have to, and I did yesterday, but it's because of time differences. Having a chat with people in Australia requires, different hours here. So and that, of course, interferes with the natural rhythms that we've had for millennia. Because we've got this connection, and it's wonderful. It's a great opportunity to talk to somebody in Australia, but it has its drawbacks, and you need to make adjustments.
Yeah, well, what I find is, because I speak with our dear friend Angela Farlam, who was one of our guests.
She's there, yes.
She lives in Australia. Now, when I speak to her, it's about 7 in the morning. Now, invariably, I'm up well before 7 o'clock. I have to be. But to do something like a long, full-on conversation for half an hour or an hour at 7 in the morning, then it messes with my day. Usually at 7 in the morning, I'm quite happily going through my emails at my own little pace, just catching up on some other bits. Maybe I'm making a couple of alterations to the website, but I sort of ease myself into the day. So to have a sort of full-on conversation where you're completely attentive to somebody and listening to everything they're saying and talking back, it throws me out for the day. Does it do the same with you?
It does. Yeah. And I get more tired doing. I find that I actually want to lie down in the afternoon and take a nap, which I never do.
Oh, it's fatal for me.
But yeah. And then that whole day's shot. Okay, I must be home from work now. This is one of the disadvantages of working from home. You don't have that marker. You've left the building, you've locked that up, and now you've gone to your home and you can relax. But
I'm only working from home about a third of the time these days. But when I do, I make a point. I stop for 1 hour in the middle of the day and I go for a walk.
Yeah.
I have to. Otherwise, about half an hour after lunch, I just want to go to sleep.
Yeah. But that's what we're saying, that you need those breaks, break from one activity, not necessarily take a nap. Although you could have a little hypnosis vacation in your head if you want to. It could be quite nice.
Well,
But we don't always want
to
come back from vacation.
Yeah, well, I have been known to, enjoy some hypnosis in the afternoons.
Yes. But also you said you go for a walk. Physical activity is so different from mental activity. And it's terribly good for us to do that, especially when we sit glued to our computers so much these days. It used to be, you were running there. If you're a woman with children, you're running all over the house. And now I'm working, my kids are grown. Now I'm sitting in front of a computer all day.
Yeah.
Often talking to clients, which is lovely, but still sitting in front of a computer. So walking is a great idea.
Yeah, but I find if I've got, say, 4 hours work to do on a computer, or I've got 4 hours sat at my computer, I'll get far more done if I do an hour and a half, take an hour's walk, then do another hour and a half. I'll get more done in those 3 hours that I've worked
They wouldn't solid
than I
four,
would
yeah.
in the solid 4. Absolutely, every time.
Yeah,
every single time.
Yeah, there's good distraction and there's bad distraction, and when your body is telling you do something else, and you sort of fiddle with stuff for a bit. Let me rearrange my sock drawer. That kind of stuff.
Because that's it. Because even if I'm tired, say you're getting a bit of eye strain at the computer or something, even if I'm tired or feeling physically tired, if I get up and do something physically active, I no longer feel physically tired.
But it also allows your brain time to do that sort of background work that it does when you're working on a problem, you're writing an article, whatever it is that you're spending that hour and a half before doing, but you have not yet completed. Your subconscious, or even your unconscious. I don't like the term unconscious mind. It sounds
I always think of somebody in a coma.
Unwell. Yeah. but the other part of your brain, not the part that's got all the things your mother didn't like and all those bits stuck in your head, but that background computer work that your brain is doing, and then you come and you sit down and you say, oh my God, look at that sentence, it's completely wrong, and you rewrite half of it, and you can do it so fast because your brain's been thinking about it in the background
because you've had a break away from it. That's the thing, isn't it? You can come back and look at something with a fresh pair of eyes. You just made me laugh though. Then you're talking about and the things that your mother didn't like. Oh, you get that as well, do you? I thought it was just me.
No. Most of our subconscious suggestions in early life come from our parents and other caregivers. Broccoli, yucky.
Yeah. No, I was. We were talking earlier on, actually, before we went on air, about how this change is as good as the rest thing, though, and how it works. It's also. See, this is the thing where I always try and give people a really good explanation of hypnosis. Things that are said to you, things that go into your subconscious, may not appear for hours or even days afterwards. And I always use that crossword analogy for that. If you're doing a crossword and you're stuck on a clue and you put the crossword down and you just get on with your day, and 3 hours later you could have been talking about something else, doing something completely different. You certainly weren't trying to think of the answer consciously, but the answer will suddenly spring into your mind out of nowhere.
I think I have to look at the times of day that I tend to do crosswords, because those things, usually I sit up in bed at 3 o'clock in the morning and go, but I tend that crosswords and word games are kind of my winding down technique.
Oh, do you do?
So I'm doing them later, and I do Wordle, of course, but those kinds of things, word finding. I used to do words with friends. I tend to play the solitary games rather than with friends. Again, time differences. You're playing a game and you send out a word, and 3 days later you get a response. It's just not the same. You've got to play the computer.
The only puzzles I do are Sudoku.
Oh, see, I don't like that. I don't like math. Now, what do I not like math? Because I was told I didn't like math because I'm a girl? I don't know. But I have enough math to get through my science.
Oh, one of your Americanisms coming through there, Denise. Math. We say maths.
I know. And I use that to good effect on word puzzles. Yes. The use of trance as a distracting thing, just to take a mini vacation or just a relaxation tape.
Mm.
just to allow you to have a really good rest.
Mm. Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
well, we were talking about that a little bit earlier on. I do like to listen to a recording in the middle of the day, maybe a 20-minute one. And for me, because I'm used to it, I can just totally switch off from everything and concentrate on that.
Well, yeah, of course, as hypnotists, we get hypnotized all the time,
Yeah.
and we're perfectly happy to be so.
Yeah, oh, yeah, absolutely.
I use the there's an Australian hypnotist. I've not come across her for all the meetings I go to. I've not come across her yet. Her name is Faircloth. Can't remember the first name now. But she does a lot of sleep hypnosis. She has a really good audio on power nap. So, not that I want anybody to go off of YouTube now and leave our podcast, but please go and look. Faircloth Power Nap. It's a 10, just some 10-minute ones, some 20-minute ones. It's very good. I find her voice very, very soothing. And I really enjoy hers. I must admit, I have a little bit of a prejudice. I don't particularly like listening to men's voices for hypnosis. I definitely prefer listening to a female voice. Do you have a preference?
No, I don't actually. I just like particular people. The ones I listen to, yeah, it's probably a 50-50 split, yeah. I would say. I like yours. I like yours with the kittens. Yeah, that's a perk of the job for editing Denise's recordings. I get to listen to them.
Yeah, we did have one recently. I couldn't get through because it realized it took me out too. So I sent it to Martin. He had the same problem.
Oh yeah, I remember that. I've done them myself though when I'm writing them out.
Yep.
And I start to fall asleep.
Yep. Yeah. Set a timer and stop after 5 minutes. Say a week.
Oh dear me. Right.
So this rest that we've both had.
Yeah.
What do you as a hypnotist recommend to your clients who come to you that are frazzled about one thing or another? Do you recommend that they listen to the tape that you give them during the day or at night?
I don't recommend they listen to the usual nighttime recording. In the daytime, I will create a special one for the daytime.
Right, but you're not the standard one that you send them home with for that first consultation.
Yeah,
that is designed to be used at night.
It's designed to be used at night, yeah, because it's designed for them to. It specifically the language patterns I use is designed to promote REM sleep. It's not necessarily designed to send them off to sleep, per se. It's designed that when they do get sleep, they're getting the right quality of sleep and they're getting the right amount of REM sleep. And it's designed to help them sort of, process the thoughts and remove the emotion from them.
How long is yours?
25 minutes, 25, 30 minutes.
Of you speaking?
Yes.
Because mine always have a lot of tail for music.
Yeah, no, mine have 2 or 3 minutes at the end and that's it.
Yeah.
I'm talking all the way through. The daytime ones, whenever I prepare them for people, or I also do early evening ones for people who are wanting to lose weight. They tend to be about 10, 15 minutes long, that's all. Don't take them down too deeply. And it's just to reinvigorate. It's, again, the thing you're saying about a change is as good as a rest. You can be really, really tired, but you listen to that for 10 or 15 minutes, it can reinvigorate you. And it can motivate you.
That's why I like the power nap. Yeah. Get on with the day.
Yeah, well, that's it. That's the whole idea of it.
Aha moment. Yes, because the aha moment comes from
changes
from that rest. Yeah, right. Aha moment. But when you get back to your newspaper, you're writing an article and you walk away from it, you come back and you suddenly realize it. It's the same. I mean, actually, if you write anything, even if you think it's finished, you shouldn't hit send right away.
No, I learned
take a little break.
I learned that very early on because
same thing goes with if you're in a bad mood and you're sending an email, go have a cup of tea and come back. Don't do it now.
Well, that's it. It's that gut reaction, isn't it, to anything? I mean, this is a whole primitive intellectual brain argument, isn't it? Because you say something in the heat of the moment because you're firing from the primitive side of the brain. You're in defense mode, fight or flight, and then you cool down. You think about it intellectually afterwards. It's like, Oops.
Yeah.
I wish I hadn't said that.
Isn't what I meant to say.
Yeah, yeah. Or maybe I should have just kept that thought to myself.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean,
Inside, your inner voice going outside, talking about what do they call it here, the political system here. They just said the quiet bit out loud.
no, but it's funny this actually, Denise, because it's talking. I mean, you can talk about public speaking with hypnotherapy and what have you.
As I sometimes do.
Yeah, yeah, me too. But some people who teach public speaking will say it's great to start off being humble. If you're nervous, just say it. Say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm a bit nervous," and be really human and
Right.
natural, and that's great. Other ones will argue to the contrary.
As this particular facilitator that you had last week presumably wouldn't don't people find that disarming?
Mm.
Or do they think it's fake? Oh, I'm a little bit nervous, and they give a brilliant speech.
Yeah,
right.
false modesty.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know because I don't actually get nervous.
You're not?
No,
In real life? No?
no, not public speaking. No.
Yeah, I do. I get the dry mouth and I can get through it, but I'm
Yeah.
definitely burning more calories getting through it than I would normally. So this doesn't bother me.
It's supposed to
This
be one
in
of
real life doesn't bother me.
no.
But if you label it talk,
It's supposed to be one of those big fears, though, isn't it? Public speaking.
Yep, second only to death.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I can imagine death trumping it. But no, I don't have any fear of public speaking.
Do you feel the same way? I know that you had a little argument with Zoom recently. Do you feel the same way presenting using technology while you're also talking? Or do you have somebody to run that side of things?
No, it's a really, really simple issue, and I've sorted it out.
So apart from the power nap with Miss Fairclough, whom I really, if you ever see this, please contact me, who I think is really amazing. I don't just do that. I like listening to, actually not even really necessarily using hypnosis to do it, because you just naturally go into a hypnotic state where you're half asleep and half awake. Listening to travelogues, or somebody describing a walk down a particular street, or getting on. One day I will make it across the United States on a train. There are several routes you can take that are really fantastic. So things like that, where you're on that journey that in real life would take several, 2 or 3 days, really, if you're going to take lunch breaks. But really only takes 20 minutes, 25 minutes in real time.
Okay, yeah, but but I'd be interested to talk about what's the difference between, say, you putting me into trance and then taking me on a holiday of a lifetime, a journey in trance under hypnosis for half an hour, and then bringing me back and me feeling, like Total Recall. Wow, what's the difference between that and
live a lifetime in half an hour?
But this is it, distortion of time, Denise. Because what's the difference between that and watching a really, really well put together TV program on the same thing for half an hour?
Right.
There is a huge difference in the effect it would have.
Well, I see. I would use it. I would have it on, and I would just be listening to it. So I think it's sort of self-hypnosis.
No, I could watch it and get absorbed in the moment and watch a really, really good holiday program, and without all the commercial breaks that you get over there every 7 minutes, and be focused. But I would not feel the same way as having.
You wouldn't have the time distortion.
Yeah, I wouldn't feel the same way as being hypnotized for half an hour and gone on that pleasant trip, that pleasant journey. That thing. What's the difference? How could we explain that difference to people?
I don't know, but I've had a lot of clients tell me that it's different. I mean,
there's a huge difference.
Yeah, and they contact me after saying, I thought it was about 15 minutes, and then I looked at the clock, and I came out of the room and said, oh, I was in there for an hour and a half. Yeah. I mean, I would never take anybody on an hour and a half trance. There's a lot of conversation before, but the actual trance usually is only 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's about 30
but
with me.
it feels a lot longer for
Yeah,
most people.
definitely does. Or it can go the other way around as well. I can remember one time myself being hypnotized back in the day, and I remember saying to the hypnotist, "Well, that seemed really quick," and they just pointed to the clock. They said 40 minutes. It seemed like 5, because I could remember the going down. I could remember the coming back. I couldn't remember.
Oh, yes.
I couldn't remember the bit in the middle.
Right. Yeah. Usually they feel like it's been a shorter time because they only remember those parts. I have a few that remember absolutely everything I've said. They can parrot it back to me. And yet they acknowledge that they were hypnotized. They just have the mind that does that. I don't. I lose track very soon after going in. And as I've said many times, I hear 3 and think, yeah, go back the other way again. But which is why I prefer my clients to listen to it at night as they fall asleep, so that, and they listen to it they'll presumably fall asleep at slightly different sections, so they hear the whole thing. Well, of course, we don't know, although I'm sure some scientists will figure it out with functional MRI or something, at what point you cease to actually hear what's being said to you. We do know that people in coma take in more than we realize. They can hear things.
Yeah, now that's a perfect example because they don't consciously hear it.
Right.
They can't. They're unconscious. They're in a coma.
Yeah, but they will sometimes remember.
Oh, yeah.
They won't necessarily remember who was saying it, but they heard a voice saying blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, because it's gone into the subconscious. But they couldn't possibly have consciously heard it because they weren't conscious. I mean, this was an argument with stuff to do with hypnosis and 8-hour-long hypnosis things to teach you a foreign language while you sleep, sort of thing. With not particularly good results, as I remember rightly. There's a thing said that you probably after about an hour, your brain has gone out of that area of being able to absorb.
I think you do that when you're conscious. After an hour, lectures really need to be 50 minutes. There's a reason for the 50-minute sessions.
Yeah, you zone out.
You zone out. You need to take a break. You need to circle back again. You need to have a distraction, something to allow your brain to absorb what is taken in. I think that for the language thing, I think that probably does work if it's used in addition to standard education. Otherwise, medical school would have been a lot more pleasant if I could have just, gone to sleep listening to people talking, rather than actually sitting up in a lecture hall.
Whether it would work for med school or not. I mean, I think they particularly go for the angle with language, the fact that we all learn our language just by listening, don't we?
Well, yes, but applying to. Otherwise, how do you know that you are understanding it if you're not applying it? I assume babies do the same thing. When babies first come and talk to you, they don't talk to you in words, but they mimic the sound.
That's right.
They're like mumbling in an accent. That's what they do.
Well, then they start to copy the words, don't they?
Right, exactly. And then eventually they figure out which ones belong where and why. But I love having those conversations with 2-year-olds. They sort of know words, or that 1 through 2. Are they really beginning to master language? Wonderful.
Yeah, no, I like them about 3 to 5 years old, where you can actually have a conversation with them. But there's still at that age, like you say, they're all hypnotized little beings.
Yes.
Yeah. Before they start going wild and out of control. Right, Michael Yapko. Michael Yapko. Michael Yapko, psychologist, held a conference on self-esteem and asked the question: would those people who are happy with what they are and who they are stand up? Only 3 people stood up, and he asked them whether they had a critical voice in the back of their heads. They all said they do. He asked the 3 people how they dealt with their critical voice, and they answered, number 1, imagine the voice as a Rottweiler chained to a railing and just carry on walking. Number 2, I don't listen if it's not constructive and tell it to bugger off. Number 3, treat it as a person telling me something and I don't stand for it. So they basically ignore their inner voice.
We hear the negatives, and like children who hear the positives, like, don't stand on that chair. stands on chair because they ignore the no.
It's not that they don't hear it, it's that they ignore it. No, I'm just talking about the inner voice then. Actually, that's just hit on something, because the inner voice isn't always critical, but it is always, it isn't always critical, but it is always negative, because that's its job. It's there to look out for things. It warns you about things.
Yes.
So it's not being critical of you when it's warning you there's a fire engine coming down the road, don't stand out.
But then how is hypnosis working? For example, if I have somebody who's coming to me who has a panic attack at the idea of driving over a bridge or giving a speech, and I implant the idea that there is no reason for this, or the positive, how are they then hearing the positive and not the negative?
Because you're a damn good hypnotist.
Well, yes, but I mean, there are other positive things that have gone into their head before too. So you don't actually hear the positive; it's just shut up. The other thing is just gone. You just don't notice the positive.
Yeah, I mean,
you don't sort of stand up and walk down, do the ballroom entrance and walk down the stairs thinking, I am beautiful, I am tall, I can walk without falling over, because you don't hear that. But if you didn't have that in there, you would hear, you're going to fall over, don't look at your feet, look straight ahead. All the things that you're supposed to do for deportment while you're doing an automatic action.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is another thing, isn't it? Okay, when we're walking down the street, we're aware of what's going on around us, but we're not consciously thinking about every single bit of our body and what it's doing. That's why we can suddenly twist our ankle on a loose paving flag, because we're not watching every step we take. We just do it subconsciously. We do it automatically. But yeah, our mind is still on constant alert all the time, and it's to do with how anxious we are, I think, as to how negative that voice is. The more anxious we are going into any situation, I think the more negative that voice is.
Then you're also scanning for everything all the time.
Yeah.
So there's only so many things you can scan for at a time, so you're going to make a mistake.
Yeah, well, that's it, and that's when people get nervous, why they start making mistakes. If you can just bring that anxiety down and calm them down, they don't make as many mistakes. They're less anxious. They're less likely to make those mistakes, because when we're anxious, we can't focus, can we?
Yeah, because you're constantly hypervigilant.
That's it. We can't focus on anything when we're anxious. I mean, that's where hypnotherapy really helps, because it just brings the anxiety down. I don't think obviously the replacing negative suggestions with positive ones is a good thing, but I think it's a dual-pronged attack. It's bringing the anxiety down as well.
I think almost everything that I do, anxiety is part of it. If all I did was advertise myself as an anti-anxiety person, bring that down, all the other things would probably get better too.
But I mean, everything I deal with, practically everything I deal with, is linked to anxiety. I mean, I don't know, hit me with a subject that I'm likely to see a client for. Let's look at the anxiety in it.
Is there anxiety around weight?
Yeah, we eat our emotions. They're your words, not mine.
But not everybody is anxious.
No, not everybody's anxious. I mean, this is the thing, actually, Denise. I mean, let's look at a case I was dealing with recently. In terms of somebody with an addiction to substance abuse. Okay. They start to use it as a leisure thing. Then they start to self-medicate with it. And then it gets to the point of, I'm happy, I'll take some drugs. I'm sad, I'll take some drugs. I'm anxious, I'll take some drugs. I'm not feeling anxious, I'm feeling great. Oh, I'll take some drugs.
Because I'll be more happy.
Yeah. So, and it can be the same with food. It was for me for years and years and years with food. It was like, I'm happy, I'll eat. I feel great, it tastes nice. I'm sad, I'll eat. I'm anxious, I'll eat.
Is that because you've subconsciously linked taste with happiness, the taste of the food with happiness?
Yeah, or with comfort, or...
Well, I think the comfort foods are particularly if people are miserable, they've come back from work, they've had a horrible day, they'll tend to go for things that they think of as comfort foods, like the bag of chips, the very salty or the very sweet things. That's
it. It's the comfort foods. It's what's in them, isn't it? Like you say, they're either very sweet, very salty, or very fatty. Yeah, no, it's that balance though, isn't it? And it's something that hits all the pleasure receptors in us. We get that sweet taste, we like it. We get that fatty taste.
It's also all something that you relate to when you were a child. Almost always. The thing that most comforts you is something your mum used to make on your birthday. Or so,
you obviously never tasted my mother's cooking.
She'll come back and haunt you now.
No, she'd be the first to admit it. She'd be the first to admit it. She was a terrible cook, but she always tried her best. That was the important thing. Just get back on topic again. It's those pleasure receptors, isn't it, with food? Definitely. So I was making that comparison though with the thing of drug use. People can use food in that way. It fills that gap. It fills that emotional void. It's whatever. And it's the same when people abuse substances. It's that go-to thing, isn't it, for comfort? Right, we're going all over the place with this podcast today, Denise, and it's our first one of the new series, and I hope we've not put too many listeners and viewers off, but it's actually quite a serious, important thing because it's about habits out of habit. I'm out of habit. I'm out of practice. Yeah. But no, it's amazing though, isn't it? We did 13 episodes last series, 13 episodes of series before. I think this is actually the longest break we've taken between them as well.
It is.
Yeah. And it's like we suddenly get out of practice, we do our circular conversations.
Yes, that's true. I've been practicing mine are always rather circular when for my other podcast, the one with physicians. But it's always with a guest and it's a different guest each time.
Yeah.
So I'm used to that. The conversations with you and I will be very, that reminds me of.
Yeah, well, that's the point. You and I could talk on Zoom for hours. When it comes to recording a podcast, and we do, yeah. But when it comes to recording a podcast, all of a sudden it's like, well, what are we talking about?
I do think the fact that you need to practice something for it to be fresh in your mind so that it continues to be, even the things that you're going to be able to retrieve. We promise you the next time you hear just us talking, we'll be a bit more organized.
Yeah, but that's the thing. If you're trying to build a new habit or replace a bad one or something, it does take practice, but it's how we learn anything. I mean, I always use the one of tying shoelaces. The first time you're shown how to do it, you'll feel completely overwhelmed. By about the 8th or 10th, from there onwards, you can do it with your eyes closed if you need to.
But if you were to learn tying your shoelaces once a month, you'd have a lesson. It would take you forever. There needs to be a very short interval between things. That's an interesting aspect of hypnosis. You could practice tying your shoelaces under hypnosis. I'm not sure I've ever done that with a child, but if you'd be able to practice it multiple times in your head, in a very short period of time, and master a task.
Well, we've got Brenda Rhodes on next week's issue. She's a hypnotherapist from your side of the pond, and we're talking about narcissism and narcissistic behaviour, coercive behaviour, gaslighting, trauma bond, and all kinds of other things. That is actually a really, really good episode. Makes a lot more sense than this one does.
It's a little more linear, yeah.
Yeah. So that's next one, but then it's you and I back on episode 3 after that, isn't it?
Right. We'll have to. We're taking suggestions if you want to contact us.
Yeah. And if anybody knows anything about virtual reality combined with hypnosis, please get in touch. We'd love to speak with you.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. So we'll see you on the next one.
Okay. Thanks, Martin. Bye-bye. We hope you've enjoyed listening. Please remember, this podcast is designed to give you an insight into therapeutic hypnosis and is for educational purposes only. So remember, consult with your own healthcare professional if you think something you've heard may apply to you or a loved one.
If you found this episode useful, you can apply for free continuing professional development or CME credits using the link provided in the show notes. Feel free to contact either of us through the links in the show notes. Join us again next week.